Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing a brand new review, a spoiler-free review, and today I'm going to be talking about Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, which is out in cinemas next Wednesday, the 21st of May here in the UK. I have been very lucky. I have seen this film early tonight. I literally just got in from London a couple of minutes ago. I got to watch the film with Tate and many of the friends of the channel. We got to see the IMAX in Leicester Square, so I'm going to be giving my initial spoiler-free thoughts, pretty fresh in the mind. And I'm just going to say now, before we get into anything else, yes, we're going to be doing a massive spoiler discussion for this one, and I think we've got it lined up for Saturday the 24th of May. So there's your very early one. We will do spoilers, but please don't comment spoilers, especially if you've seen the film. As I said, we'll be giving our thoughts in a much different video. We've both seen it multiple times by that point, and we can talk about some of the nitty-gritty stuff. But this is, as I said, very fresh in the mind. And if you're a fan of the channel, if you're curious, you can hit the subscribe button. We've got a few more Mission Impossible videos planned, not just the spoiler discussion, as I said. We've got a lot of other things happening on the channel. We've got an Andor final discussion going up tomorrow. That'll be live in the evening. We've got so many things in play at the moment. It's a very busy time. So to all our new subscribers, thank you so much. To our long-time viewers, of course, a massive appreciation as always. And if you want to find out about other videos, things we do, you can get us on our social medias, linktree.com/cinemasavvy, puts you through to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Letterboxd. I think I've said them all. It's also past midnight here, so this is a very late one for me to be recording. But let's talk this film, which was originally Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2. Very conveniently dropped the Part 2 off the title, switched it to Final Reckoning, a film that, of course, has been filming for a very long time, following on from Mission Impossible 7. I don't mind the name change. I guess Thunderbolts have changed the game for that in respective of recent memory, but Part 1 didn't perform as well as they wanted at the box office. There's many gazillion reasons about that. Not getting premium screens, coming out a few days after Indiana Jones, a few days before Barbenheimer, it being a very crowded summer, the runtime, the fact it's a Part 1, maybe even over-marketing of a singular stunt. There could be many reasons as to why it underperformed. But since that time, Tom Cruise has signed a deal with Warner Brothers. This is his last Paramount film under their contract, and he'll be moving over to Warner Bros. To do a load of new films, loads of new projects. I think a bit of reality kicked in with the last film, i.e. let's get the May release. Let's not release it in a crowded summer window this time. And a massive one for me in terms of a cinema experience, felt almost make or break me wanting to watch this film today to be at the press screening, is the IMAX. They didn't get that at the last film. We didn't get any IMAX aspect ratio, considering how well it was used in Fallout, considering obviously you go all the way back to Ghost Protocol and the use of IMAX on the Burj Khalifa scene. It felt very strange, and I think that was one of my criticisms on that video 2 years ago. So today, to get an IMAX feature, I'm going to be talking about that at length, perfectly using IMAX. And just my initial thoughts is I enjoyed this film. I do have mixed thoughts. I have more mixed thoughts on this than a few of the other recent MI ones. And it's really hard to talk about in a spoiler-free section. But where I'm going to kind of segue this into the story is it is very much a story of 3 acts. As traditional as it can be with a film. And I'll be really totally open. First act completely lost me. There was too much going on. I really struggled to follow it in terms of story, narrative choices, characters zigzagging over with montages of sequences. The first act I really struggled with, and I think that's been a problem for a lot of other people. That being said, by the time it gets to Act 2, I'm invested and I'm enjoying it. By the time you get to Act 3, we have one of the best Mission Impossible Act 3s. I know that's not really a thing to call them Act 3, but the final sequences, I won't tell you what's used in it, because if I say what's in the marketing campaign, you might know something's at the end of the film, something's at the start, but the final act I absolutely loved. The middle act I'm fine with, just the first act there was a lot. They were trying to do a bit too much. It felt the weakest from a story perspective, but again, by the time you get into it, it grows. And I don't know if that's a hangover from Dead Reckoning Part 1 and having to bring back stuff from that to put it into this to get it moving. But there's still a lot of love with this. And there's still a lot to like about the opening. There's still some great moments. It is just structurally a little bit over the place. So that's my biggest criticism of the film, if I'm completely honest. And it sort of impacts the story because obviously it's a spoiler-free review, but this is a part 2 to Part 1 Dead Reckoning. It's about the entity and Gabrielle and what's Ethan Hunt going to do to save the day. It ends the last film with him getting both keys. So what is going to happen? We need him to go on this adventure to find the submarine that no one knows where it is and to save the world from the entity. So that's the most I'm going to say about the story, because the very beginning it sets up what's going to happen in part two, what is different with the entity this time round, character motives, things to expect to happen. And as I said, it's a spoiler free, it's difficult to talk about that. And that's where the narrative gets a bit all over the place. It starts, it's kind of a bit like Dune. And I say that really confusingly. There's, I'm not calling Tom Cruise Mardi, but there's very much a conversation around, you could say, an ego and a path for a character to take. And this is not a criticism, this is a praise of the film, but this feels like the most egocentric Tom Cruise Mission Impossible film, which is wild when you think that this is an 8-film series, that he basically is the series, he is Ethan Hunt. But it feels like this one, it's okay, what am I going to do? Like in the trailer, I want an aircraft carrier. We gave him an aircraft carrier. Was the aircraft carrier needed in this film? No, it really wasn't. We did get a cool, ships taking off sequence, which was Top Gun Maverick-esque, not featuring him. It felt like we've got IMAX cameras, we've got an aircraft carrier, let's go. So it's kind of like that, where it's like, I want to do this, I'm going to do this. I like to do that, I'm going to do that. And it really does work on the action sequences. And I think where it doesn't work for me, as I said, is the story of that. The story is a little bit weaker. I'm not disrespecting any of the stunts, which are incredible. Some of the highest highs of the series. I know the plane sequence is what's been advertised in the marketing campaign a lot. I know they're now talking about a sequence that has not been on the marketing campaign, which is true. There is an insane sequence which is not in the marketing campaign, which is going to blow your mind. Incredible. IMAX, the use of IMAX, a silent auditorium in a 500-seat room. Everyone was silent. The soundtrack was not blaring. The soundtrack was atmospheric as it needs to be and very low, and really was taking the impact of these stunts, of these moments. And then that can go back to, again, part one, certain things that I have marketed, the train going off the rails and jumping the bike over the top of the mountain. 2 incredible stunts, but 2 stunts which the whole world knew. Whereas they're able to hide some of their gems, find a reckon, which makes me think they've learned from their lessons. And it's a really big part of my enjoyment of this film was when I'm in those action sequences, not like, oh, I'm vibing with Tom Cruise, but there's an IMAX camera strapped to a plane and Tom Cruise is hanging off it. It's peak cinema. It's what you want from the cinema. It's what you go to the cinema for. It's for the big moment. It's for those crowd sequences. Why do you go to the cinema? You go to the cinema for films such as this. Yes, there's a place for every type of film to see, whether it be foreign films, dramatic films, comedies, but an action sequence using some of the best technology to hand to enhance your experiences whilst watching it, while seeing one of the biggest stars in Hollywood history hanging off the side of a plane, that is enough to want to go and see this film at the cinema. And for the first ever time in my life, I actually sat there thinking, Tom Cruise is actually going to die to make films. It's terrifying what he puts himself through. And I think the plane sequences in this may be one of, if not the greatest stunt sequence in the Mission Impossible films. Something about this worked so well. And I don't even think it was earned from a narrative standpoint. It was the choice of the planes being used. It was the choice of the cameras. As I said, the IMAX was missing from part one. It didn't enhance that experience. It made you wanting to see it in a different way. But they utilised the frames, the cinematography to do so with this part two. So I'm absolutely raving about all these action sequences. And that's what you want from Mission Impossible films. We do want good stories. We've been blessed with wonderful stories in recent years, particularly the latter films. But at times, the early ones, it's been more so the sequences than the story, or the first one is more the story than the sequences. So it's an evolving series. And if this is to be the last one, this is the right way for them to bow out this franchise. Whether it be the last Tom Cruise film, whether they want to bring someone else in, which it doesn't feel like they're going to do that if I say that. It's not like an open-ended wink, let's pull in this actor or actress. It doesn't do any of that. It feels like a farewell, and if it is the time to end it, this is the time to end it. I do think that's the case. Putting the fun in the title is a really big part of that. The amount of years Tom Cruise has spent making these films as well. Chris McQuarrie, of course, who's got an incredible legacy with this series. So a lot of it worked for me. I'm not going to talk about the characters too much. I think I'm going to save that more so for the spoiler discussions. I will say a weakness I have with the film again is Gabrielle. It's not the performance of Esme Morales. I think it's just a very weak character that feels a lot weaker in the sequel, which is a little bit disappointing. But again, with these films, I'm there more so for for Ethan and the team than I am for the villains. Not to adorn a great villain, Solomon Lane's my favourite Mission Impossible villain. I actually think the films have been missing him since he's been gone from them. I understand why he's not been brought back, but he felt more like a final boss than Gabriel, who is someone that we still don't know an awful lot about, especially when they've gone into a backstory with him and Ethan from 30 plus years ago. I'll be totally blunt, it's not something that is addressed in the sequel, which is disappointing from a narrative standpoint. So there are issues with this, and I understand why people are going to be mixed on this. But for me, I've really enjoyed this film. It grew on me. It didn't have that wham bang impact that you get with your fallouts that you get with Ghost Protocol, but it grew, and it felt like the event film it is trying to be. It feels like it's going to end the series, and I can understand that's why structurally it may be a bit different. It is trying to do it on the grandest scheme, the most biggest impossible mission yet. It feels like it's an impossible mission, and it isn't centric around just Ethan. Of course it is, but the world is at stake for a change, and I don't think we've had that as much with other films. So again, it's a different one to talk about. This is ending is it 5.5 hours, the Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning together? Would that what the run times would be? If you think about that's how long this is. That's like a mini series. So it has to be different. But as I said, it might not work for everybody. It worked for me. It got me in. I couldn't imagine being more traumatized than having a bad Mission Impossible film. No one wants it to go out in a whimper, and absolutely hasn't. And I hope audiences turn up for this. So this is going to be me rounding out the spoiler-free review. I very much enjoyed the film. I recommend this film. Go to your IMAX, see it in IMAX. Look at how they use those cameras. The action scenes will blow you away. There are certain sequences which are absolutely incredible that no one else is doing, like Tom Cruise. And as you'd expect in Mission Impossible, there's also some very funny sequences too. So that's going to be everything I say on this one. I mentioned we're going to do a spoiler discussion. We're doing a ranking video for the film series 2, and we'll be doing a ranking video on stunts. Don't know the timings of those. We'll put them on our social medias when we do. But this is me rounding out this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I want to know your thoughts if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, if you're looking forward to it, please do comment them, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.